I don't know, John. So I don't know if he is done or not. I don't know if this is
Izzy
normal.
yesterday said he thinks he comes back.
Maybe Izzy knows him better than I do. I don't know, John. I don't claim to know John.
Gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Guess why? Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. Once he gets to those championship rounds, even now, say Cyril Gane pushes him 25 minutes. If he beats Cyril Gane, but he learns to go 25 minutes where that first time you feel that
What if the greatest fighter of all time was afraid of his own legacy? For months, the world of MMA fell silent after Jon Jones, a name synonymous with dominance, announced his retirement and vacated his championship belt. But that silence was just the calm before the storm. In a move that sent shockwaves through the entire sport, Jones reversed his decision, not for an ordinary fight, but for one final epic showdown. According to reports from major sports media outlets, Jones has openly challenged the new undisputed champion, Tom Aspinall, reigniting a firestorm of speculation for a fight being hailed as one of the biggest in heavyweight history. Jon Jones's period of silence was a masterclass in mystique. For months after his injury, his online presence became cryptic and sparse, a stark contrast to his usual active engagement. He would post training videos showing his recovery, but offered no concrete timeline for his return, fueling endless speculation. The UFC, and Dana White in particular, publicly maintained that the Stipe Miocic fight was still the priority, the one they intended to rebook. This created a fog of uncertainty over the heavyweight division. Was Jones truly focused on Stipe, a fellow legend in the final stages of his career? Or was he aware of the growing storm that was Tom Aspinall? This deliberate ambiguity kept the entire MMA world guessing, allowing pressure and anticipation to build to a fever pitch. Every pundit, fan, and fellow fighter had a theory, but only the king himself knew his next move. The reveal, when it came, was a strategic masterstroke. It wasn't in a formal press conference, but through a series of calculated social media posts and interviews where he acknowledged the shifting landscape. He openly stated that the conversation around Tom Aspinall had become too loud to ignore. He framed his return not just as a comeback from injury, but as a direct response to a challenge he found both disrespectful and intriguing. He was making it clear that he heard the noise and saw the new champion. By turning his attention to Aspinall, Jones instantly made the Stipe fight feel like old news, a chapter of the past. He was reasserting his control over the narrative, reminding everyone that the division moves on his terms and his terms alone. The silence was broken, and with it, the king had declared a new war. While Jon Jones healed in the shadows, Tom Aspinall was forging his destiny in the brightest of lights. His crowning moment came at UFC 295, where he stepped up on just 2 weeks' notice to face the terrifying knockout artist Sergey Pavlovich. In a stunning display of composure and power, Aspinall knocked him out cold in just over a minute, capturing the interim heavyweight title. It was a performance that announced the arrival of a new kind of threat, a heavyweight with the speed and footwork of a middleweight combined with devastating one-punch power. But for Aspinall, winning the interim belt was not the end goal. It was merely the key to the door he truly wanted to unlock. He immediately began what would become one of the most relentless public campaigns for a title shot in modern UFC history. Aspinall's strategy was brilliant and suffocating. He wasn't just a fighter, he became a politician, making his case on every major platform available. In interviews with journalists like Ariel Helwani and on his own social media channels, he laid out a clear, logical argument. I am the interim champion. Jon Jones is the champion. The only fight that makes sense is to unify these belts. He repeated this message with unwavering consistency, framing the UFC's insistence on the Miocic fight as a disrespect to the division and its fans. He was careful not to be overly hostile, often praising Jones as the greatest ever, which made his challenge seem more like an honorable quest than a bitter rivalry. This approach won him overwhelming public support, creating a tidal wave of pressure aimed directly at Jones and Dana White. His fury wasn't wild, it was focused, articulate, and impossible to ignore. To truly grasp the weight of this impending clash, you must understand the ghosts that haunt Jon Jones's career. His claim as the greatest of all time is, in the eyes of many, tainted. It's a legacy of two halves, one defined by unparalleled genius inside the octagon, and the other marred by a series of self-inflicted crises outside of it. The most damaging of these have been the repeated issues with performance-enhancing substances. Incidents like the one surrounding his fights with Daniel Cormier led to titles being stripped and victories overturned, creating a permanent asterisk next to his name. These controversies gave rise to a persistent narrative that his incredible abilities might not have been entirely natural. While he has vehemently denied any intentional wrongdoing, the shadows of these failed tests have provided his rivals with a powerful weapon. Tom Aspinall has been surgically precise in his use of this weapon. He understands that the psychological battle is just as important as the physical one. In his public statements, Aspinall has drawn a clear line in the sand. He sees himself as a clean athlete, and he has openly called for the most stringent testing possible for a fight with Jones. By doing so, he subtly reintroduces all the old doubts into the conversation without having to make direct accusations. He forces Jones to once again confront the most controversial parts of his past. This makes the fight about more than just skill versus skill. It transforms it into a battle for redemption. For Jones, a victory over Aspinall isn't just another win, it's a desperate attempt to prove, once and for all, that his greatness is authentic and not the product of a chemical advantage.
Behind the curtain of public call-outs and social media battles, the UFC is engaged in a monumental balancing act. A fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall is undeniably a promoter's dream. It's a clash of generations, a story of an established legend against a rising prodigy that is guaranteed to generate massive pay-per-view buys and global attention. The financial upside is enormous. However, for the UFC, the situation is a strategic nightmare. The organization had invested significant marketing resources and prestige into the Jones-Miocic fight, selling it as a battle between the two greatest fighters of all time in their respective divisions. To abandon that plan would be to admit that the division has moved on, something a promotion is always hesitant to do. Dana White has been visibly caught in the mill, trying to publicly honor the commitment made to a legend like Stipe while being unable to deny the undeniable logic and momentum behind Aspinall. This high-stakes gamble extends far beyond just one event. The UFC is managing its most valuable and volatile assets, proven superstar, a name that still carries immense weight. If he fights Aspinall and loses, the aura of invincibility that has sold countless tickets and PPVs would be shattered, potentially forever. This would diminish his value for any future bouts. On the other hand, Tom Aspinall is the key to the rapidly growing UK market. If he were to fight Jones and be thoroughly dominated, it could stall the incredible momentum he has built. The UFC is not just trying to book a fight, it is navigating a complex web of legacy, marketability, and timing. Every decision is fraught with risk, and a single misstep could have financial and promotional repercussions that last for years. The most compelling analysis of this matchup comes from those who have studied Jon Jones for years, particularly the man who knows him best as an opponent, Daniel Cormier. From his position as an analyst, Cormier has provided a chillingly detailed breakdown of why Aspinall is not just another contender, but a uniquely dangerous puzzle for Jones. He points to Aspinall's rare combination of heavyweight power and light-footed fluid movement, a style Jones has never truly faced before. Cormier has highlighted how Aspinall's ability to close distance quickly and attack from unconventional angles could disrupt Jones's methodical, range-based fighting style. These aren't just opinions, they're expert warnings from a rival who has felt Jones's strength and studied his every tendency, suggesting that Aspinall's skill set directly targets potential vulnerabilities. These whispers are amplified by concerns over Jones's physical condition. At 37 years old and coming off a nearly 2-year layoff compounded by a severe pectoral tear, questions about his durability are more valid than ever. A torn pectoral is a devastating injury for any athlete, but for a fighter like Jones, whose style relies so heavily on unparalleled strength in wrestling and clinch situations, it could be a critical weakness. Other fighters and trainers have echoed this sentiment, suggesting that the timing is perfect for Aspinall and disastrous for Jones. The consensus among many insiders is that while Jones possesses one of the greatest minds for fighting the sport has ever seen, he may be entering this battle with a body that can no longer execute what his mind commands. This creates a powerful narrative. The old lion, still brilliant, but physically compromised, facing the strongest and fastest challenger of the new generation. In the grand scheme of this epic confrontation, the gleaming UFC heavyweight belt is merely a prop. The true prize is intangible, invaluable, and eternal: legacy. For Jon Jones, this is the final war against the asterisk that has been stamped next to his name for a decade. Every win has been followed by a but. Every moment of genius has been questioned. This fight represents his last violent closing argument in the court of public opinion. A decisive victory over a prime, undisputed powerhouse like Tom Aspinall would be his ultimate vindication. It would be the act that silences the doubters, neutralizes the critics, and finally allows him to claim the undisputed title of greatest of all time without objection. A loss, however, would be a catastrophic failure, validating every criticism and turning his entire complicated story into a tragedy of unfulfilled potential right at the finish line. For Tom Aspinall, this is not just a title shot. It is a date with destiny. It's the opportunity that every fighter dreams of, to become a legend in a single night. This is his chance to do what 24 other elite fighters have failed to do: solve the puzzle of Jon Jones. A victory would be a seismic shift in the sport, a definitive torch-passing moment that elevates him from a champion to an icon. He would become the man who dethroned the king, the symbol of a new era, and the undisputed baddest man on the planet. The fight represents a clash of two timelines. One man is fighting to protect his history and prove that his era is not over. The other is fighting to launch the future and prove that his time is now. The stakes are absolute, and the outcome will redefine the pinnacle of mixed martial arts for years to come. So we are left with a conflict that feels almost mythological. On one side stands a living legend, a master of the sport, fighting against his own body, the weight of his past, and the relentless march of time. On the other stands the embodiment of the future, a fighter with devastating power and the unwavering belief that he is the next step in the sport's evolution. Is Jon Jones' unparalleled fight IQ enough to defuse the most explosive challenger he has ever faced? Or has Tom Aspinall's perfect combination of speed, power, and timing arrived at the exact moment the king has become vulnerable? The questions loom large over the entire world of combat sports. We're about to witness a fight that will answer everything. Is this a legend's last stand or the dawn of a new era? The world is watching, and the answer will be written in blood and glory.